Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again. I knew that this video was coming because I watched a movie last night, and let me just explain the process. And I know you guys can tell that my sinuses are acting up. um, I don't know why that is. But it's the way it is. So last night, I wanted to watch something for fun, and I scrolled through Amazon's movies, and it was very, very like, I knew what was coming because I found this one movie, and I clicked on it, and I was like, okay, that's the movie I'm watching. I want to watch that movie because I was able to recognize the movie somehow, intuitively. And so this is the third, and so then I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this movie, and I watched the whole thing. I thought, this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen, probably in the top 20 or 30 best movies I've ever seen. It might even go to the top 10 at some point. But I looked at the release date, 1969, and I thought, okay, here's a test. If this movie came out after the death of the past life, which was August 9th, 1969, if this movie came out after that, then, maybe all this stuff, maybe it's just a bunch of nonsense. But what do you know? This movie, Support Your Local Sheriff, it came out March of 1969. So that was a time where I could have seen this movie in theaters at that time. So at that moment I was like, uh-oh, this is going to be one of those experiences. This is going to be one of those things where I watch it and I have some really, really interesting dreams. And what do you know? The dreams, like, first off, I will talk about the movie, because this is just like a review of the movie, and then with a little bit of extra stuff for people who've been following this channel and know all about the past life stuff. Number one, James Garner was one of the people whose hair I cut in my previous life. And so it's honestly really likely that I would have been attracted to seeing this movie at that time period. I would have, for sure. I mean, it looked really good. It didn't look bad at all. And I don't even like Westerns. I don't even really like a comedy Western too. I mean, that's just crazy. Like, the fact that I like this movie just shows that there's more to it than meets the eye. And so, I had one nightmare, and then I woke up. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I got up and went to the bathroom, and then I had another nightmare. And then I had another nightmare, and then I woke up and went to the bathroom, and then I went back to the sleep and had another nightmare. And then I finally woke up. So it was very much similar to that experience of watching Eye of the Devil, which was last year, which I'd like to point out with that too, that, I wasn't planning on watching all of Sharon's movies. I intuitively picked out that one in particular, and it was the one that turned out to be the one that caused the memories and stuff and the nightmares. And then, of course, I picked out Night Tide. And I'm telling you guys, I looked through hundreds and hundreds of mermaid movies. It just so happens that I pick out Night Tide. It's not a coincidence, guys. I'm sorry. It's stupid to pretend like it's a coincidence. And so this is the third one. The third movie that I pick out, and then I either have memories or nightmares or a mix of both. Now, this movie, it is such a fantastic movie. I would say it's a masterpiece. It's not the funniest movie in the world, but it's so light, it's so positive, it's so, the whole movie, I just had a smile on my face because it was so nice. And it's about this guy. Well, that's not true. I didn't smile the whole movie, but it just was a very pleasant experience. It felt like, wow, I was not expecting this to be this good. But it's about this guy who comes into this town. They don't have a sheriff. It's a western town. And he just wants a job, and he sees sheriff. And he applies at the hardware store, or the mayor works there. And I should also mention it's a gold mining town. And I will say probably the only flaw of the movie, I guess, is that the whole gold subplot really isn't like relevant to the movie at all. Like there's a couple of good jokes that comes with it, but it's really just kind of like, I guess, an excuse for like a stranger to come into town. But like the whole thing with there's a gold mining everywhere around this town. It never really comes into play, except for the fact that originally the stranger was planning on leaving the town. And it is a little cliche, a stranger comes to town, he's not invested in these people, there's bad guys that they make life a living hell, and then the stranger helps them, he gets invested in them, and then he stays with them. That's been told before. Like, the only thing it didn't have was the whole lying angle. Those stupid cliches where a character lies about who they are, and then there's a point in the movie where the people find out, and it's like, oh no! There's never any stupid bullshit like that in this movie, and that really made me happy. Oh, shit! Don't mind that. So he becomes sheriff in like a matter of minutes, and he's badass. He witnesses this murder, and the bad guy, he's like, you better remember my name. And he's like, oh, I will. I'm going to spend the rest of my life remembering your name. And then what do you know? He becomes sheriff, and then the next minute he fucking arrests that guy, throws him in jail. Like, that was just, this guy is awesome. He is probably one of the coolest Western characters. I mean, honestly, like, he's cooler than John Wayne by a million miles. He's the coolest because he just exudes confidence and charisma, and not like a fake confidence. Like, John Wayne, he's kind of like a clown. He's kind of like an impersonator cowboy. Like, you can tell that John Wayne isn't actually a cowboy. He wouldn't last a day in the Wild West by himself, But James Garner, you can tell that this character, he can do anything. He's fucking awesome. And so the whole movie is about how the bad guy, played by Bruce Dern, by the way, his family, they're also evil, and they want to get him out of prison because they know he's going to be executed for a clear murder he committed at the beginning. And so they try various ways to get him out, and then the whole movie ends with the sheriff, his deputy, and he gets a deputy, and the deputy is a really, really cool character. He has this like twitchy eye, and he looks really goofy and weird, and he's really awesome. He actually ends the movie in this funny way where he tells the camera like what happens. And I thought that was a really interesting ending, the way that he looks right at the camera and he tells the audience, this is how the movie ends. Or this is what happens after the movie. And then he also falls in love with the mayor's daughter. She's a major character. She's really good too. You know, she's a good female character. Like, wow, it's really not hard to write a good female character, guys. It's really not. Just don't make them like the ones in Barbie, and you'll be fine. So overall, like, I just, this is a perfect movie. Like, it's a masterpiece. I could say that again because, like, there's nothing really else to say. Like, there's just, I would rather people watch it for themselves and just enjoy it themselves than, like, describe, like, the good things in the movie. If I had to pick a favorite scene, that's really tough because there's so many good scenes, and, like, a lot of the times the movies that I tend to like are the ones where, you know, it's like the whole movie's good. You can't really pick a scene that's the best scene in the movie. But if I had to pick a scene, there was a really funny scene where the mayor's daughter was cooking and her dress caught on fire, and she's bringing the food in for the sheriff and her father to eat, and she's on fire. It's just really hilarious. And then the sheriff gets up and he splashes water on her, and she gets really upset. And, you know, it's a running joke in the movie that she's really clumsy, and she's really, like, just not like a perfect lady character like you'd see in these westerns where she's, like, perfect in every way. Like, there's one scene where she goes inside the house and we just hear, like, constant noises of her, like, falling and dropping things, and it's just, it is the greatest. It's so funny. So yeah, I would give this movie, in terms of food, this is going to be one of those movies, guys. This is going to be a spaghetti movie. If you don't know, spaghetti is my favorite food, and I only reserve spaghetti for the best movies. That's what this movie is. It is a perfect bowl of spaghetti. Nothing more to it. It's just perfect in every way. And it might be up there in the best movies of the year. In fact, it's right there next to another James Garner movie, which is kind of funny. So now let's move on to The Nightmare. I'm only going to talk about one of them because I felt like that was the weirdest one. I guess. I don't know. It's hard to rank those. So I dreamt I was in a classroom. I had a weird schedule that didn't stay the same, so it kind of, like, switched around. And that's what happens a lot of the times in dreams, is that things switch around. They just switch around constantly, and it's hard to keep track of, like, what is consistently there. I had a gym class where I could do whatever I wanted in this large weight room. I really wanted to box, so I was just, like, throwing punches and practicing, and, you know, that could be a memory for sure. Just, you know, throwing punches, just practice punches. Then I bumped into an old person friend, and he said, "What are you looking at?" or something. And then I went to, I guess, history class, and it was weird because the teacher, her appearance kept on shifting. And at first she looked like one teacher I had, and then another one, and then another one I never had before, and then my old German teacher. But most of the time she was this teacher that I've never had in this life. And there were a lot of people I went to school with, including that person from gym class. And people kept on getting into trouble. This one kid, for some reason, he moved seats or something. And he left on the floor, he had a stack of cassette tapes. And on top of that was stacks of quarters. And she was walking around class and she said, "I guess someone's going to lose their $4. And then he ran over and quickly got his money. And then I went to talk with the friend from gym class. But right when I started to talk to him, the teacher yelled, "Excuse me." So then we got the idea, let's quote unquote go to the bathroom. And we left and we started walking down. It turned into like a street. And so we were walking down like these parking lots that I've never seen before. And then we turned around, and this might be some sort of like a thing that's somewhere in the US. I don't know what it is. I could draw a picture of it, kind of. It was like this weird, like, yellow, like a giant yellow. There were two, like, bendy things, and it was like something that you could play on. It was on a hill, and it looked like there was a little building behind that yellow thing. And then across from this building was like a playground. And we agreed that these certain movies were awesome because the movies grew up with you or something. You know, very random. And then when we got to the playground, we got on the swing sets, but it was too uncomfortable for me. I kept on slipping off. And there was also some sort of a part of this dream where I was in bed, and under the blanket there were all these dried up puke puddles that were underneath this blanket. Like, it was really gross. So I got off, and he did too. And then he turned into another friend. And we looked at these other swings for younger kids, and he said, "Try to get on this one." And I said no. And by the way, that did actually happen. When I was with the Super Dumbasses, we did play on these swing sets, and they were slippery because it rained. And then they were like, you know, try to get in this children's one. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So that did actually happen. So this could have been that memory spliced in here. And this was the weird thing though. I distinctly remember being by this large lake. And in the lake, there was this dock that was like partially underwater. And pieces of it were missing. And it kind of led into the water on a decline. We decided it was time to go back to class. We walked through the parking lots, and then those morphed back into a school hallway. The teacher did not say anything, and neither did we. But this was when the teacher turned into my old reading teacher for some reason. And she said, "Marco, I really like you when you leave to go home. But here at school, I'm starting to hate you." This was a fucked up situation to me because I was realizing I was too old for this. Like, I'm not going to put up with this classroom bullshit anymore. I'm sick of this shit. And so it was kind of interesting the way that I consciously was like, I'm done with this shit. I don't fucking care. I got really angry and decided that I was going to quit this rehash. That's when the teacher switched back to the one I never had, and she got really mad. And she got really mad at these other kids for some reason. But then she saw me making an angry face at her while she yelled at other kids. And she teleported to me and got right in my face and yelled. I said, "Why are you allowed to show emotions and I'm not?" over and over again as she yelled at me. And she yelled, "You want to make that face? You want to be angry?" And she mimicked the pouty face I made. Her eyes then rolled to the back of her head like a demonic creature. And then she was making this face with her teeth, her fucking gross teeth. Then she crawled underneath the desk to me and got up on me in like a sexual type of manner. And I told her I couldn't deny she was a beautiful woman. She got mad at that, really mad. And then I got out of my seat and she growled, like, ah. I backed up and said, once again, I cannot deny she's a very beautiful woman. And then she turned into more of like a human-like figure. And then and then finally she morphed into like the old German teacher. And all of a sudden, she was standing in the middle of the class, laughing along and being friendly with me. It was very, very scary. Everyone in class was scared shitless. But the weird thing was that I looked at the clock. It was like either 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock. But I remember, like, this class was, like, awful late in the day. And it seemed like it just went on forever. So, that was the first one. And that was the most major one to me. And so, you can kind of see, like, what goes on here. The way that in the middle of that dream, there was one memory that definitely happened. But then there's possibly two others that did not happen in this lifetime. So very, very interesting. You know what I'd like to do too? I'd like to find out where Jay went to school. And then I'd like to look at the teachers to see if any of them kind of match this character. Because maybe, you know, I did a drawing, and the drawing is a little bit of an exaggeration. You know, she was not this wrinkly. She was more of like glossy, like a wax figure type of character. But she did kind of look like this, though. Very, very gross and creepy. So I felt like I was really happy that this happened, because it just shows, like, that it's definitely for real. Like, I definitely saw this movie in theaters, and it definitely triggered those nightmares. And it was very, very entertaining. Honestly, I really, really enjoyed it. Even though that, you know, every time that you have bad sleep, it kind of impacts the rest of the day. So yeah, later on in the day, we will be reviewing Dolls, which I still haven't watched yet, because I wanted to do this video first. So yeah, anyways, please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of the movie, and what you think of these weird nightmares. It was not as surreal as the one with Night Tide, where it was like the movie set with the fire, but it was very, very, like, because I can remember detailed pictures, and so it's very, very, very real. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more videos like this. And if you don't, then go away, because, you know, it was really funny, guys. And I will tell you guys this, because I know some of you have been following the whole casting. So I still, to give you guys perspective, I still have not gotten any other auditions, which is a pretty good indicator that probably I won't get any more. Unfortunately. It shows that they're too lazy to do it, or they just don't care. Which is unfortunate, because they were closer than the other people. So, yeah. I might not be able to make any other casting competition videos. Unfortunately, you know, I thought, hey, there's 5 people. I mean, the problem is, guys, is that when you cast a character, you don't just want to cast from having 2 people or 1 person. You want to have what's called a good sample size. Unless you're really, really desperate, you want to have a good sample size where you have like 10 to 20 people, and because then somebody will really stick out of those people, you know, like somebody will really jump out at you as being better than the others. But when you only have two people or one person, it's harder for that one person who's really good to stand out, you know. That's the problem. So anyways, goodbye everybody. See you soon.